What is up, everyone? We are live for Healthy Happy Hour Thursday. We are here every Thursday answering all of your health and fitness questions. And today I have a very special guest, and I'm super excited about it. Here she is, Dr. Amina Goodwin. She is a physician and health coach, and I am so excited to ask her all of the questions today. So if you have any, I sent the invite, so you should be able to accept that and hop in.
Oh,
Yes.
hello. I'm so happy to be here. Let me see.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I was starting to get a little worried because I didn't see the signal, but can you see me okay, or is my lighting a bit off?
No, everything is good. I can see you. I can hear you. Everything's moving. You're not frozen or anything.
Perfect. Well, thanks for inviting me on your Healthy Happy Hour, Nikki, and I'm excited to get the conversation rolling.
Yes. Okay, so I'll give you a formal introduction. Everyone, this is Dr. Amina Goodwin. She is a physician and a health coach, and your field is you're an infectious disease.
Yeah, internal medicine and infectious disease. I do both.
Yes. Yeah. So we have a doctor, guys. We are going to get into all of the questions. One thing that I love about the content that you share is promoting healthy eating. You don't make it sound scary. You don't tell everyone to cut all these things out. And she educates us on, why we want to be more aware of how we're eating and more aware about the sugar that we're taking in, because, there's a lot of hidden sugar. There's a lot of trickery out here when it comes to healthy food marketing, and I have this whole thing about it, but I am going to pass it on over to you. So first, I just want to learn a little bit about your background. How long have you been practicing, and what do you love? What do you love about sharing and educating people about eating healthier?
Yes. Hi, Nikki, and good evening to your audience, everybody listening to us. So I, like you said, I'm a practicing physician, and I work in the hospital only, so not in clinics. And I like to say that I help people get over illnesses, like acute illnesses in the hospital, and help them get a new lease on life, right? And a lot of times when people get hospitalized, it's like a wake-up call. So they've been going along fine, and then bam, something happens. Or in Mississippi, they say the bottom falls out. But oftentimes it's like a wake-up call, and then we can sort of tweak little things and provide education so that they now have a new lease on life, and they can get on and do better and not be hospitalized again. But then additionally, I, as a health coach, when I started doing that a couple of years ago, I help people who know that they need to start eating better for improved health and well-being. I help them figure out how to eat better without having to resort to fad diets and counting calories and so on. So I help them to figure it out in a way that is manageable and really not boring. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do, the two different sides of what I do. And, you said to give some of my background. I've been practicing medicine now for about 21 years, so a long time. Right now I'm in Mississippi, East Mississippi. I've been here for the past 9 years, and I only work in the hospital. And in the hospital, it's like a very hectic setting, and people are scared, and family members are scared, so you don't really get to do as much education sometimes as you would like. We're doing now. I mean, we do some, but education for ongoing health is an ongoing thing. You don't just kind of learn something one time and then that's it. It's really lifelong. And so that's where the health coaching comes in online, where I can reach people and help with the more sustained learning and improving in terms of lifestyle and diet, so that they don't get into the hospital.
I love that. We are we're on the same vibe, the same wavelength. I'm a huge fan of prevention and educating on prevention, and it's not very common. And I tell people, I'm like, what, doctors go to medical school. That's not they're practicing what they learned in medical school. Yes. It's not always taught to teach prevention. I'm like, they're doing their job, so it's on us. Another doctor, Dr. Katashia, is a PharmD, and she says she got it from someone else, but I can't remember where she got it from. But she says you are the CEO of your own health. Yes. So it's on us. So I like the fact that you give people, a plan and action items and steps that they can take to sustain a high quality of life and live a long, healthy life versus just, hey, take this pill and, temporarily manage the symptom. And I vibe with that like so much. I also love the fact that you mentioned, no calorie counting. I'm not a fan of calorie counting at all. I'm a former obsessive calorie counter. I mean, I counted everything that I ate, everything that I drank every single day. Like if it passed these lips, I was counting the calories, and that was keeping a food journal. That was even before apps. Now you have apps where you can really, but it was exhausting. And I just got to the point I couldn't do it anymore. So I really like, trying to help educate people on, the steps to take to eat healthier without food restriction, without diet, without torture. So that's actually going to be my first question. When someone, and I actually just got this question this afternoon. Someone came in, hey, I need a meal plan, help me. And when someone comes to you like, hey, I want to do something better, I want to eat better, what do you do to help break down those initial misconceptions out there that they think that you're going to put them on a diet, or they're worried about hating their food? What do you do to kind of disarm them and kind of open them up to wanting to be healthier?
Yeah, so what I do, Nikki, like in the first thing I tell people, because this is like a daily thing in the hospital, I say, look, just generally speaking, if you can have half of your plate as vegetables, that's a great start. So half as vegetables, the more color, the better, because that indicates variety, right? And then approximately a quarter can be your protein, whether it's be your meat, steak, chicken, fish, whatever, or if you're vegetarian, peas and beans, legumes, tofu and things like that. And then if you're going to have starch, then that should be no more than a quarter, right? So that's kind of how I started first. Right? People sometimes get a little alarmed, like, oh my goodness, half the plate is vegetables. So I said, look, the more, like, basically you just start. Now, if you are not accustomed to eating any vegetables at all, then you just start by adding some, and you build up and build up. And then, of course, it takes you, again, coming from zero, you have to start now figuring out what it is that you like, right? And then gradually you just add and build. So nobody expects you to do perfect like overnight. Like you're not going to be at point A and get to point B like tomorrow. You know what I mean? So we start like that. And then talking about calories, a lot of times, and it's because of like, I guess, marketing and what you see on the internet and TV and so on, people don't realize that like not all calories are made the same. So a fat calorie, well, basically fat, like foods, fatty foods, coconut, all these things like that, you're going to get like twice as much calories from fat as opposed to from protein and starch. And like when we think about food, the three main components would be your starch or carbs, protein, and then fat, right? And gram for gram, fat is going to give you twice as much as protein and starch, right? So you can't just think, oh, I'm having like, a soda and it's only 100 calories, so I'm fine. The other thing too is that the different types of foods, right, do different things to the body. So my focus initially when I kind of started on this whole thing about diet, weight modification and so on was sugar, because I feel like sugar is the biggest health killer of all the things. And to go back even further, what got me started on all this is here in Mississippi, I came here as an infectious disease specialist. And at any one point in time, half of my patients at least would be diabetic. And so just seeing that pattern and noticing, but it's like all this diabetes, and it's diabetes that's just breaking down the body and making it more prone to all the other diseases, including serious infections. So that got me thinking, okay, it's about the sugar.
We have a question about is type 2 diabetes hereditary?
Type 2 diabetes, not, I mean, there might be like a tendency, like a genetic tendency towards diabetes, but a genetic tendency does not mean that you will definitely get it, right? And what I like to say is actually more importantly would be inherited behaviors, inherited ways of eating, because your parents and grandparents and everybody around you eat in a certain way and have a certain lifestyle, and that's what you inherit because that's what you've seen, but it's not necessarily an inherited like gene that gives that to you. So that's like kind of something I try to sort of dispel with people. It's inherited ways of eating and living rather than inherited genes. And furthermore, you can have an inherited gene, but you can live your life and have a lifestyle that sort of offsets the inherited gene, right? So it's not like a predetermination. You can be predisposed, but it's not predetermined because you can do things to prevent that from happening. So yeah.
Right. I thank you so much for breaking that down, because a lot of people believe that type 2 diabetes is hereditary because we saw our grandparents with it, our parents had it, and think that we are just, like it's something that just happens. Oh, it's just a little blood sugar.
Yeah.
No. And I 1,000%, like, I am so happy. I'm like, yes, over here, because it's the lifestyle habits. It's our eating behaviors that are passed down from generation to generation. And that's why I call myself a health foodie, but I try to take like soul food, for example. You're in Mississippi. My family's from Alabama. So is my husband's family. So, instead of the fried chicken and the macaroni and cheese and, the biscuits, I do a healthy spin on it. So it's still super flavorful, but we're not at risk. We're not contributing to that disease. And you said something, and I'll go back into this, with type 2 diabetes leaving you more at risk for more infectious diseases. I didn't know that.
Oh yes, for sure. I mean, that's why over the past 2 years we've had all these problems, the pandemic and all, because of how much diabetes we have. And even not like, other than diabetes, like diabetes is when I say diabetes, I mean type 2, because type 1 is a whole different thing. That's like, like a, immune problem with the pancreas and so on. But anyway, type 2 diabetes, it's a spectrum. So it's not that yesterday you're normal and today you're diabetic. Over years and decades, the body becomes less able to handle sugar. And going back again to food and how we're eating, and sugar specifically, what happens is that the body likes to keep sugar in like a nice steady state, because sugar, high levels or high concentrations of sugar in the body, in the blood, are actually toxic to the cells. The cells do not like those high concentrations of sugar. So the body does all it can to keep the sugar levels normal, right? And to keep sugar levels normal, we have this hormone called insulin, right? That is responsible for driving sugar into the cells, right? So when you're drinking or eat, like drinking here, it's a lot of sodas, or eating a lot of candy, or just sweet things, or even starch, that basically is a string of glucose molecules. So starch, bread, rice, etc., breaks straight down to glucose in the bloodstream. So all the starch and sugar means that blood sugar levels are going up high all the time, but the body, because sugar is toxic to the cells, it's producing insulin to get it down quickly. The thing about insulin is that insulin is a pro-growth, it's anabolic, it's storage, right? So with all this excess glucose that we're not using because we're sedentary, so we're not going to burn it off, right? So what it gets stored as is fat, right? So the kind of myth is that, fat, like oil and like butter and fatty things are what cause you to gain weight, but it's not fat that causes you to gain weight. It's actually glucose, and we get the glucose from sweetened beverages, candies, breads, cookies, and so on. So we're piling in all that sugar, all that glucose into our bodies, and then to keep it low, which is what the body likes, homeostasis or steady state, we're producing lots and lots of insulin, right? And so you keep eating sugar, so you need more and more and more insulin, and eventually the cells, the body gets tired of being bombarded by insulin. So insulin, it just locks off, it shuts down from insulin, right? But the sugar is still high, so you need more insulin, right? And this is what we call insulin resistance, because after a while the insulin is not working because the body's shutting down. It's like, you're bombarding me too much with insulin. I don't want to be bombarded by all this insulin. So lock you out, you stay there, but the sugar still has to come down, so you're producing more and more and more, and eventually you cannot keep up with the amount of insulin. It's not working, your body's not able to produce anymore, and so you develop diabetes because the blood sugar levels now stay high. But all this time before the blood sugar actually gets high, you have very high insulin levels in the blood. And when you have high insulin, you are in fat storage mode, and that's what's driving the obesity, the being overweight and fat storage, because insulin, pro-growth, fat storage is always going to tell your body, store fat, store fat, store fat, right? And whenever your body is in this fat storage mode, it means that you cannot be in fat burning mode. Like, you can't burn and store fat at the same time, right? So if you're eating or drinking sweetened things all the time and always triggering the insulin response, triggering this hormone, then you're always in fat burning mode. You will never lose weight. And even if you're counting calories and, you know, okay, I'm gonna just eat, I don't know, 1,000 calories, but if all 1,000 calories are from sweetened drinks or bread or like, I don't know, pita pockets or whatever, then all those calories are driving or promoting insulin, and you will never burn excess fat that you have. And that's the problem with, like, that's the stress with people, that they just keep struggling and they're like, oh my goodness, like, I just can't lose any weight. Like, no matter what I do, people might lose a little bit, but then, you know, there's this standstill, and it's frustrating because they're counting the calories, they're like restricting, they're feeling awfully, you know, like weak or maybe even hungry, and they're just suffering. And then eventually they just give up, because nobody can do that. That's not natural, you know, that's just no way to live. And it's because of, again, the marketing and, you know, all these little dinner, like like, I don't know, microwave little meals that, you know, just 250 calories or
My,
zero
my,
calories,
my
low
old lean
fat.
cuisines.
Yeah,
My old
all
lean
those
cuisines,
things,
lean
right?
pockets.
Yeah, and then low fat, and so you're not getting your energy, because if something is like higher in like calories, like fatty foods, that helps to give you some energy, but at the same time you're gonna get energy that you can use because it's not sugar, right? Which, like, you're not gonna have toxic levels of like, I don't know, like olive oil in your bloodstream, but the blood sugar, you're not gonna be able to handle it as well, and so it's gonna go up, and then your body's gonna like, let's get rid of it quick before you're able to burn it off. So that's kind of like a breakdown. And I don't know if you have any questions about it, if I explained that clearly.
Yes, that breakdown was awesome. People are saying like, this is amazing content. We have one question. Is there a supplement that you can take? What to say? Is there a supplement? Are there any supplements that can block sugar or allow you to eat more carbs or starch?
Not necessarily a supplement. Now, what I tell, like, some of my clients that I work with and patients in general, like, you know, they, like, you just, like, you can't, like all of us, like, you can't get away from a little bread every now and then, maybe, or starch in general, right? So to offset the effect of starch, what you do is have fiber with it. And that's where vegetables come in, because vegetables are actually starch, right? But it's starch with a lot of fiber. So that's like natural. Like 100 years ago, people had starch, but they had with fiber. Now the starch is all refined and super processed, and so all the fiber is taken out. And this is all, of course, to keep it, like, extend the shelf life. They take out the fiber, they take out the naturally occurring fat, and then they put preservatives and everything, and these things can last years and years on the shelf, right? But if you have natural, like, fiber from your vegetables, or I don't know, other things like flax seeds, chia seeds, and so on, and so your rice or your bread is with a lot of salad and so on, you're not going to have that spike in blood glucose, because the fiber slows down the absorption in your stomach, right? So especially too, like, if you're eating, I don't know, like, say for example, like dessert, like, you shouldn't have, like, whenever I'm in the hospital, I see patients like, they start with the dessert. I'm like, no, don't eat dessert first. Eat your salad and whatever fiber and then whatever fat and protein first, so that those things are in the stomach. It slows down the digestion and absorption of whatever glucose or, you know, starch might be in the food, so that you have a more steady, you know, increase and like stable blood sugar levels, rather than that rapid peak. Like if you take a drink or like a dessert, it's like it goes up because it's like nothing else in the stomach, it's empty, and so it's just going to be rapidly absorbed. So take not a supplement, but just eat fiber, have dessert like as dessert, not on an empty stomach, and then don't drink sweetened drinks. That's like one, right? So it's, I would say, fiber, having much more fiber, which would be much more vegetables and like nuts and chia seeds and flax seeds and so on. Yes.
Says some bodybuilders will inject themselves with insulin to offset the sugar. Is that a method that truly works, and is it safe?
Well, it's going to carry on the sugar, but then because you're taking insulin, it's going to store it as fat. And the insulin, the glucose, is stored as fat all over the body, the muscles, in the fat cells, in the liver, right? So these people, it's just like diabetes now. Back in the day, people controlled diabetes. Well, before insulin was, and insulin is a wonderful drug, but before, people controlled diabetes by just not having starch, right? They just had like basically fat and protein mainly, right? But now, because of medications, people feel like, okay, I can eat whatever I want. All I have to do is take insulin, right? But then you're driving all the fat storage, and insulin itself is in excess is pro-inflammatory. So it promotes inflammation in the body. And that's why you have all these chronic diseases, the heart disease from the inflamed, plaque-filled blood vessels promoting heart disease, even Alzheimer's, which they now actually call type 3 diabetes, right? Is because of all the chronic inflammation for the vessels that supply the brain and the brain cells and things like that, right? So yeah, they're taking insulin because they're trying to get a normal number, but a normal blood test doesn't mean that things are perfect in the body. The body's struggling to keep maintaining, like under the surface microscopically, all hell is breaking loose to keep everything nice and stable. So I didn't know bodybuilders did that, but that's not a good thing.
Wow. That this is fascinating. So we had another question. What about the people who work out a lot and figure they can eat whatever they want because like they worked it off?
Yeah, well, like athletes. That's why actually when Richard, like my son, like he would have like sweet things and so on. Like as much as I don't like him to eat like sweets, but he would get some sweet things sometimes. But they're like running all over the place. Like he doesn't walk anywhere. He runs everywhere, right? And then of course athletes, those people that are running, they talk about Michael Phelps, how he used to consume thousands and thousands of calories. But these people have big, bulky muscles, and they are literally burning thousands of calories every day, these elite athletes. So yeah, that's fine. But most of us are just kind of sitting in our offices like for most of the hours of the day, and we're just not burning it like that. So yeah, if you're going to be running marathons and swimming all over the place and doing lots of things, then fine, but otherwise no. And then another thing as well is that our calorie requirements probably vary, like depending on how active we are, right? So some days you will definitely need to eat more than other days because you're just more active, or maybe even using more brain power, right? So I mean, it varies, but most of us are not that active to be needing do all those calories. I mean, I don't want to say calories, but to be able to burn off all the glucose that we're consuming.
Okay, and everyone that's just joined us, we just had a great breakdown of exactly why it's so hard for a lot of people to lose weight, or just not aware of how much sugar you're consuming. When she's saying glucose is sugar, guys, we're talking about sugar and how to eat better, how to start developing some habits so we can eat better and be more aware of what we're taking into our bodies. And I want to dive back into the eating dessert before your dinner. So that's the reason that your parents say, don't ruin your dinner before having that cupcake before you eat. So we're just having that explanation of have your meal first, have your protein first, have your fiber first if you're going to have a dessert. Also, one strategy that I say with people, like, have a real meal first, and usually after that, you don't even crave the sugar anymore.
Exactly.
So I do have my next question is, and this is a big one, people ask me this all the time. I have my own thoughts about it, but I want to hear this from a physician. Is sugar addictive?
Sugar is addictive. In fact, they say that sugar is even more addictive than cocaine, right? And it produces, when you eat sugar, like these feel-good chemicals, endorphins and so on are produced, and you just want more. And if you actually see a child, like I noticed it with my son, that's when I really appreciated it, because like he would get something sweet and he'd be like dancing and jiggling, and just like you see this pleasure in his face. But yeah, sugar is absolutely addictive. And some people actually experience withdrawal symptoms when they try to cut sugar. And so for some people, they really have to wean themselves slowly off sugar as opposed to like doing it cold turkey. And sometimes when I work with people who really have a sugar problem, I tell them, okay, we're going to start this whole process like on a long weekend so that they can get through the agitation and sometimes headaches and things like that, without having to go to work. So it is addictive, yes.
And
and food companies know this, by the way.
Oh.
They know this, and so that's part of why like sugar is in everything, because people like the taste of it, and it's all about making us buy more so that the profits are higher for food companies. In fact, sugar is added to about 75 to 80% of all packaged foods, right? So the odds are stacked against us, because it's added. And another thing as well is that there are scores and scores of different names for sugar, because they know, the food companies know that sugar is bad for us, and so they try to hide it by calling it all kinds of names, in invert sugar, cane sugar, you know, dextrose, like all sorts of names. There's scores of names for sugar.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, I just have like 1,000 more questions, but I'm gonna reel it in. So there's a question here. We have a friend whose kidneys are functioning at 5%. Should she even be eating carbs at all? Also, can her kidneys be saved?
So, you know, there's always hope. I always say, I mean, right now I have several patients here who have kidney problems right here in the hospital. And so in my opinion, there is always hope. Now, sugar again, because I mean, you can say it's like empty calories. Basically, you want to feed your body with things that are going to provide it the nutrients and the energy that it needs. That's why we eat, right? For our body cells to be able to function as they should and do what they should, right? So energy, you know, your protein, your fat, right? Healthy fats. When I say healthy fats, like from, you know, like olive oil, coconut oil, nuts, avocado, just like fatty foods like that. You'll even get some fat from meat, right? Depending, you know, on the type of meat, you get different levels of fat, right? So fat, your protein as well, you get good energy from that. Then the vegetables, fruits, for minerals and vitamins, right? So you get, and there are all these cofactors and phytonutrients that all the cells need, and we only get those from food that's naturally occurring, right? Sugar is not essential. Like if we never had another drop of sugar, we would not die. Compared to essential fat, you've heard of essential fatty acids. So fat is essential. You've heard of essential amino acids. So protein is essential. We will die if we don't get protein and those essential amino acids. And we will die if we don't get fatty acids, because, you know, all the brain cells and nerves and everything. So, and all the cell, you know, they have fat layers and so on and so forth, right? But we can live without glucose. In fact, our body has the ability to produce glucose. The liver can produce glucose, right? So, yeah, fat is not necessary for that person. When I have patients who are in the hospital, I tell them, look, you want to take as little of things that are not helpful as possible, right? You want to focus on the foods that are going to help you and build you up. Your body's struggling to recover from whatever illness, right? So you don't want to add more stress to your body by taking in things that it's going to actually have to struggle to eliminate, right? Toxic things, additives, preservatives, just fake stuff, right? And then sugar, what's sugar going to do if they're taking a lot of sugar? It's just going to, again, cause that high insulin and like damage to the vessels and inflammation and so on. So for that person, I would say start with the things that are going to nourish you and build you up. Your protein, well, the person has to work, you know, like protein plus or minus for kidney failure, you have to watch the amount, but certainly some amount you need for your muscles, fruits and vegetables, healthy fats. And then for starches, because we're going to have some starch that is unprocessed, you know, black rice, right? And we said vegetables you're going to get starch from. Things like sweet potatoes, right? You have more fiber and even nutrients in sweet potatoes compared to white potatoes. You're going to get starch from those below ground vegetables like carrots and beets and so on. So I think all of us, and in fact, like all of us could stand to cut down on added sugar and even like close to zero. And I tell my patients, I'm like, I'm not telling you to do something that I don't do, because I think all of us should eat as if we have like one of these chronic diseases, because that's what's going to prevent us from getting these chronic diseases in the future. And then what you do is that you can splurge like on special occasions. Back in the day, like when we were young, like sodas and ice cream, those were for special occasions, but they're plentiful now. Like people are having them every day, twice a day, 3 times per day, right? It should be that these things are for special occasions, and you keep your body in a state where it's able to handle those, you know, treats on special occasions. But if you bombard yourself multiple times a day, then you can't handle it, right?
Right. Like it's so interesting. Everything that you're saying aligns with everything that I educate on. So, you know, my biggest thing I say, my only like food guideline I give people, because I don't give like cut out all these things, just transition away from eating processed foods and focus on eating whole foods in their most natural form. And mainly because of, like you said, all of those hidden ingredients. Like I didn't know this. I didn't know about all these hidden names for sugar, just wait for them to hide it in the food. And you also don't feel very good eating processed food. So I tell people, you know, if a lot of people aren't sure of like what's processed, what's not. So I tell them, turn over the package. If you can't read it, don't eat it. Like if you can't pronounce those ingredients, don't eat it. And it's interesting when we were talking about sugar being, addictive. Me and my husband did an experiment once. So it was like a Nutty Buddy or something. We don't eat this stuff anymore. Like we completely cut out refined sugar, like 100%. Anything sweet in this house, I bake it myself, but I use coconut sugar, which I'm going to ask you about. So he stopped eating it. And then like for the next 4 days, he craved sugar like crazy. It took 4 days for that sugar craving to go away. But because we were doing this experiment, we knew what was going on and he was aware of it. So, but I thought that was so interesting that it took 4 days for that sugar taste and to go away. And think about, what happens with a child.
What happens with what?
Like with a child, when they have sugar and you take it away, and they don't know what's going on.
Yes.
Oh, we have a question. I have a glass of red wine occasionally. What's up, Brother Smalls? I have a glass of red wine occasionally. I heard red wine can be beneficial in moderation.
In moderation, there are these, I forget what they're, resveratrol, and it's like these special things in red wine that can be anti-inflammatory and so on. So in moderation, most things in moderation are okay, right? But we're getting a lot of excess. Like, for example, the recommended daily allowance for added sugar is 6 teaspoons. This is added. So I'm not talking about sugar that's naturally occurring in like fruits and, vegetables and so on and so forth. For added sugar, 6 teaspoons per day. Every 1 teaspoon is 4 grams. So 6 teaspoons is equal to 24 grams. And all of us, diabetic or not, should aim to have no more than 6 teaspoons per day. Most people actually have like 18 teaspoons or more. That's the average, 3 times what they should have, right? And that was me, by the way. I consider myself a former sugar addict because I used to say literally, like, I hope I never become diabetic because I cannot live without sugar. And I thought when I was younger that, only diabetics need to worry about sugar. So I understand people like having difficulties like cutting down sugar and so on and so forth, because that was me up until about 7-8 years ago, right? So yeah, sugar, it's super addictive, and it is in like 75-80% of all packaged foods, and it's hard to avoid it. And the best, like now for me, we basically don't recook all our food except maybe once a week or every couple of weeks we go out, but we prepare all our food. The best thing, and as hard as it is, like I encourage people to take more control of their food, because that's the only way you're going to know what is in your food. Okay. And I mean, we just have to take more control. There's just no way around it but to take. We're spoiled. Like, you look at ads and they're like, let us take care of it. And it's like that, not just with food, but with healthcare. Like you started by saying like that, we should be our own health CEO. It's true, right? We need to stop relinquishing control to everybody else and take control. That's just what we need to do. Yeah. So yeah, and you were asking about coconut sugar. I actually use coconut sugar too because I like that caramelly sort of flavor. So I'm not 0 sugar, but I'm like close to maybe 2 teaspoons, 1, close to 0 on some days. But I do bake a good almond flour banana bread, and I put 2 tablespoons of sugar in that whole loaf of my banana bread. So each slice has way less than like a teaspoon. And I like that coconut sugar just because it has this nice flavor. I mean, sugar is sugar, and I know some people might come in, hey, sugar is sugar, right? And it's true, sugar is sugar. And yes, coconut sugar might have like a little more antioxidant content than like regular white cane sugar, whatever. But it really, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. You just, again, I'm sure you also don't use what the recipe says. When you bake your own stuff, you can greatly decrease the amount of sugar that you add. So yes, we use a little sugar, but we use a fraction of what would be contained in the commercial stuff.
Okay, that is so good to know, because I did a lot of research before we found a sugar to actually use, because before that I was a Splenda addict, which yikes, I know, yikes. And it was, I didn't realize, again, going back to being processed and that chemical, it desensitized our taste buds. So then when you actually did eat something that was natural, like a baked good that was sweet, it barely tasted like anything because my taste buds were completely shot. So it took us like maybe 6 months, if not longer, to like get back to normal where we could actually taste food. And even changing to like where spicy food tasted spicier after we cut out the Splenda. So I'm so glad.
All these tastes are acquired tastes. So we acquired the taste for sugar because we were not born liking sugar, but we got it early in life, and because it's naturally like addictive, as in like it does something to your brain, right? So then we acquire it, we want more and more and more, right? And so we can wean our taste buds off and then de-acquire that taste. And like you said, after you wean yourself off, you, like me even, like there are things that I cannot, like they're just like syrup, they're just too sweet. And so for those people who think, oh, I can never do it, though, like, oh my goodness, like I always tell people, if I could cut out sugar and be surviving, like I never drank water. And now that's all I drink, water and brewed tea. I have everything here in my office. And it's possible, like it literally is possible, but you just have to tell yourself, look, this is important, like I'm poisoning my body and this is super important, and set a date and just maybe have a buddy, somebody to support, like you had your husband. And my husband actually encouraged me because he couldn't believe how much sugar I used to. He was like, oh my goodness, like you're a doctor and you're like, oh, you don't drink water, you're putting all the sugar. So it is possible, but the first step is to decide that you're going to do it for your own health.
Yes. I have another question. What about stevia? What are your thoughts on like stevia and like monk fruit?
Yes, I was going to mention that because stevia and monk fruit, those are actually the two natural 0-calorie sweeteners that are okay, right? So of course the artificial, like sweet alone, those are like artificial chemicals that like are bad, right? But stevia and monk fruit do not carry up blood glucose levels, right? And so therefore they're not going to cause that insulin spike, which is ultimately what we're trying to avoid. Generally speaking, I say if you can get like these sweeteners, okay, it's no calories, or like they don't carry blood sugar, but you're still like a slave to sugar, right? To the taste. You're still craving that taste. So they don't help you overcome your craving for sugar. And then what happens? You go to like an event, or you go on vacation or whatever, and you're not where you can have access to stevia and monk fruit. So what you're gonna do? You can't live without sugar, so you're gonna just settle for whatever sugars that they have there, right? So ultimately you want to overcome like an addiction or like a hole, or you just don't want to be dependent on something. But some people who are actually type 2 diabetic or type 1 or whatever, and they want to bake stuff and they just really can't afford to have a glucose spike, so stevia and monk fruit are good, good options for people who just kind of want to have something for occasions, right? Where it's like their treat, right? Like we said, we're alive, we have to live, we have to enjoy things. So as a treat, those two are the two good ones. Yeah, there's an aftertaste, but anyway, if you can manage the aftertaste, then fine.
It is different. We just tried one of our supplements has monk, because we were looking for a clean BCAA supplement, and because they usually have sucralose in it, which is Splenda.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So I found one with monk fruit, and I the first sip I'm like, but now I had to get used to it. Now I love it because I can't do the Splenda anymore. So I'll ask this question, and then I want to get into your challenge coming up.
Oh, sure.
What about, so people ask me this, and I'm curious to hear your information on this. What about the sugars in fruit, though?
Yeah.
When people say, well, sugar, what about the fruit?
Yeah, and I get that all the time too, right? So yeah, sugar and fruit, I think I alluded to earlier, it's coming with fiber. So it's not like, yeah, it's sugar with fiber. That's the problem again. Like the sugar we're having now, like sodas and juices, is like unnaturally concentrated forms of sugar. So in fruit, because I eat fruit every day, I don't eat it on an empty stomach. It's probably not going to be so bad if I eat it on an empty stomach. But now I'm just so conscious of like not like driving up my blood like sugar levels any at all, right? But sugar in fruit comes with fiber, so you don't have to worry about it as much. Now, someone who's diabetic, now they have to be more cautious because some fruits are way sweeter than others. And the three like sweetest fruits that diabetics should be aware of, as like a type 2 diabetic especially, or diabetic, would be bananas, pineapples, and grapes. Those are sweet. And then in the Caribbean, like I'm from the Caribbean, mangoes, right? So those you kind of have to be super cautious about. Now, the ones that you really don't have to worry too much about would be berries. Any berry, because berries have, for their weight, like, their fiber content is pretty high, and berries are really not going to cause a significant blood sugar spike. Everything in moderation. I mean, if you eat a whole crate of strawberries, I mean, maybe depending on how bad your diabetes is, you might have a little increase, but generally speaking, berries are great. You don't have to worry about berries. And then things like, like peaches and maybe to mix apples and so on, like generally you're not going to eat like 5 apples. So if you have an apple, like it's not going to be the worst thing in the world, right? So usually I don't worry about that. I mean, fruits, and I eat fruit every day myself. So yeah.
Wow, this discussion has been fascinating. Actually, I have to watch this again and take notes because I feel like I need to. You need to send me an invoice. All the information you shared today. This has been amazing. So you have a 5-day challenge coming up. So everyone, if you are loving this information and you want more, and I know I want more, Dr. Amina Goodwin is having a 5-day challenge coming up. Tell us about your challenge.
So thanks for asking me about the challenge, Nikki. So yes, my challenge is called the Eat More, Weigh Less Challenge. And that's because a lot of times people think, oh, dieting, and I have to eat like a tiny amount of oatmeal, and then I have to eat like a little bit of this and so on and so forth. And what the problem I realize is that people need to eat more of the right things. So like, for example, oatmeal. I tell people, and like some of clients in the past have gotten surprised at this. I said, don't just have plain oatmeal. Add some chopped pecans, add some flax seeds, add some fruit, some berries, right? Just bulk it up like that. And then you have this full, more wholesome breakfast that's going to keep you until lunchtime. So people need to eat more, but more of the right types of foods that are going to supply them with the energy and nutrients that they need, so that they're not eating every like 1.5 to 2 hours, and most likely eating 1.5 to 2 hours things that are only driving up blood glucose but not providing the nutrients and the energy. So the Eat More, Weigh Less challenge is a 5-day life challenge where we go through like the sort of like an overview of what the food is doing to your body. So we kind of mentioned about like the insulin and things like that, but we go into more detail about what to do to sort of offset some of these negative effects on your body after food, right? We go through things like, of course, we go into more detail about the sugar. We teach you about smart meal planning so that you can, like, again, be satisfied throughout the day rather than be feeling weak and like restricted and things like that, right? And then we go through other things, including affordability, because a lot of times people think, oh, it's too expensive to eat healthy. But no, you just have to know what to do, how to make the choices to make, and so on. So this challenge for anybody who essentially feels like, oh my goodness, like I know I need to eat better, but I don't know how. I need to get my energy back, their health maybe it needs to be improved, and they just want to get the body that they've been yearning for. And so this challenge is for anybody who's been struggling with eating and sick and tired of fat diets, sick and tired of counting calories, because those things are just not natural. So the challenge is happening starting on the 8th of August, and it's going live from about 11 a.m. Eastern time till 1. It's 2 hours for those who choose the VIP option, where they can actually have one like direct questioning with me for a whole extra hour, like basically coaching, without the coaching price. So I'm excited about this challenge. It's going to be the second time I'm running it, and the first time the feedback was pretty good, so I'm excited to offer it another a second time, and so that more people who didn't get a chance the first time can join it and just learn how to eat more, but at the same time weigh less. We call it Eat More, Weigh Less. So eat more, know what to eat more of, without getting that fat storage. So eat more, weigh less. And we have to see as many people on it.
One question about oatmeal was rolled oats or steel cut oats. Which do you prefer?
Steel cut oats is less refined. So steel cut oats is like the top in terms of oatmeal, and then that instant oats is at the bottom, because there's nothing for your body to do. It's already processed and refined. So all it happens, it gets absorbed straight into the bloodstream. Again, the blood sugar goes up. So oatmeal is like known or like kind of felt to be a healthy food, but it's actually not, generally speaking. Yeah, not the oatmeal that is common these days. No. And people are shocked. And actually on the last challenge, one of the attendees, she experienced this like on the day 3, because she brought it up on day 2. And then I was like, because she's like, oh, she eats oatmeal every day, thinking like this is healthy. And, she was like kind of more like menopausal age. And so she's like, like, I don't know, like I'm getting hungry by 10:30, like 2 hours later, I'm hungry. So I said, look, what you add some chopped pecans to it, add some berries, right? Even add some flax seeds. And even if you do that, and some people have a sprinkle of honey. So, okay, you have a little sugar, but because you have the fat and the protein from the nuts, you have fiber as well from those, plus the flax seeds, and you have your berries as well. And all that together, and that person experienced where they were able to stay until lunchtime, like for the first time, without eating. So they ate more, like a big, like a bulkier, like more rich breakfast. So more, but they were able to stay until lunchtime, right? And when you do that thing consistently, sometimes other clients I say, look, eat a good omelette, nice omelette loaded with vegetables and so on, a nice solid breakfast. You don't have to worry about eating and drinking something sweet and so on by 10 o'clock. So eat more for that, and then you're good to lunch, eat another good solid meal and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Yes, I love when someone actually has that experience for themselves, where it's not just, I'm telling you to do this, just try this, just try it. And when they do it and they have the feeling of that experience, now they're locked in. Now, you know, it's locked into their brain that this actually works. I don't have to starve myself to eat healthier. I don't have to be miserable or hangry to eat healthy.
Yeah.
So what are the two ways for people to join your challenge? Are you doing general admission and VIP?
Yeah. We have the general admission, which is 1 hour. So that one, they'll be just in the Facebook group listening to the teachings live, right? That's $97. And with this challenge, by the way, like, this is not just like something where you come and take notes. Like, you are going to be challenged. You're going to get homework at the end of every day. And we have a Facebook group as well for everybody to interact and sort of help keep everybody accountable. So the general admission is $97. But then we have the VIP experience, where for the first hour, there's going to be that 1 hour session on Zoom where you get to ask questions to me about your personal like experience or whatever. And then even better, you get to listen to questions asked by other attendees and hear my answers to them. So the VIP experience is the best option if you can afford to do it. It's like a great deal because it's, like I said, like one-on-one coaching, but without having to pay for one-on-one coaching to me. So yeah,
that's an excellent deal. Only $297 for an hour for a full week, for 5 days of coaching.
Yes.
With all the information that you dropped today in less than an hour. I can't imagine what you share over the course of 5 days. So everyone, make sure you grab a ticket to the Eat More, Weigh Less challenge. I know it sounds mind-blowing because it is. So how can people join? Do you have your link in your bio? How can people sign up?
On Instagram, which is Dr. Amina Goodwin, which you'll see today anyway. It's the link. There's a link there, and when you click into that, at the top you'll see the Eat More, Weigh Less challenge, and you can go and sort of see the details about it, and then choose the option that works for you. Yep. And we started less than 2 weeks, so it's August 8th, week after next Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time today to share all of this amazing I almost said inflammation, girl. Inflammation. Sharing all this amazing information. I mean, I have to, when I save this and share this, I have to go back and take notes because I learned so much today. So I just thank you so much for taking time to educate us today and share all that valuable information and the action items that we can do to start eating healthier now. Everyone, make sure you click that arrow above and follow Dr. Amina Goodwin and sign up for the challenge. Get the VIP ticket, $297 for a full week of coaching. That's crazy. That is amazing. And please sign up. I'm going to be in the challenge. You heard it here. I'm coming in the challenge because I want to learn. I know I want more. So thank you so much for joining us. And everyone, have a good night.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for listening. And yes, have a good night, everyone. Bye.